All right. I think we are live. I got a new live setup here. So if there's any audio problems or visual problems, let me know in the comments. My voice is still a little raspy. I'm recovering from some illness yesterday. But all right, here's what we're doing, we're helping people quit cannabis and nicotine live. If it's your first time on a live call, you might want to fast forward because basically what I do is I answer questions as they come in the comments section. So if you have questions about quitting nicotine or cannabis, now is the time to ask those questions in the comments. I see Chief Bacon, I see AJ, I see Dion. What's going on, guys? If there's any problems with the audio, just let me know. But now is the time to ask questions. So if you have questions about quitting cannabis, nicotine, adult media content, now's the time. All right. All right. Very good. I see Shirag. I see Just Cal. Hello, guys. Hello. Okay. Kevo says, I'm 16, been struggling with weed so much every day for months. Can you please help me? Kevo, I am happy to help you, but what aspect of quitting is it that you need help with specifically? Be a little more specific as to what it is you need help with, and then I can help you. You guys, the more specific your questions, the more I'm going to be able to help you, okay? Gabriella, I just decided, or Gabrielle, I just decided to quit smoking again. Thanks for all your support. We got Ruben. Thanks for all your videos. Currently recovering from stage 1 CHS. Yeah, I had stage 1 CHS with cannabis. Oh, what the heck? My other computer's on. Hold on here. There we go. I had stage 1 CHS. This is referring to something called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. It's a condition in which stage 1 usually starts with like nausea and weight loss. Stage 2 typically results in cyclical vomiting, throwing up every few hours. And then stage 3 is hopefully recovery. Ruben, this is a great time to quit cannabis during stage 1. I can promise you this, there is no benefit that you're getting from cannabis at this point that's going to outweigh the negatives of continued cannabis consumption. That I can promise you. Charlie, just finished 8 days without nicotine. Why get withdrawals around days 12 or 14? Excellent question, Charlie. So I don't really like commenting on this because everyone's experience is so different. But in quitting nicotine, it is usually around day 14 where you see that 2 week hump. And it's because around day 14, your body starts to detox the byproducts of nicotine. So usually there's a little secondary push of nicotine withdrawal around the 2 week mark. Okay. This is what I would tell you, Charlie, though. You might not get withdrawal symptoms around day 12 to 14. But Charlie, does that change your goal in quitting nicotine? Or is it more a matter of it is what it is, right? If you get withdrawals, does that mean you're going back to using it? Or does that mean you're going to continue pursuing quitting nicotine because of X, Y, and Z things that you want to accomplish? I think what's more important than your question, Charlie, is the outcome of nicotine withdrawal. If you experience nicotine withdrawal, does that change the fact that you wanted to quit and that you have goals that you are looking to accomplish in quitting? And chances are the answer is no. So, Charlie, what I would tell you right away is what I tell so many clients in my one on one programs, it is what it is. Don't let that change the goals and objectives that you're trying to achieve in quitting nicotine, because chances are those goals and objectives are far more important than some potential withdrawal symptoms that you may or may not experience. So many people won't even start quitting a substance because they fear withdrawal symptoms. And many times that fear is nothing more than a bunch of false expectations appearing real. We got Joe Sosa, day number 3, 0 weed. Congratulations. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. There's no going back now. That's exactly the mindset and the type of commitment that you want to have. Concrete menace. I have bad ADHD, so I feel like I needed to level out my body and soul. Okay, here's the thing. Everyone who's struggling with a substance use disorder, whether it's cannabis, nicotine, or something else, feels like they need it. They feel like there is some benefit to having it. And I just made a video about this. Don't fall for that victim mentality mindset. Okay. Someone else feels like they need it because they have chronic pain. Someone else feels like they need it because they're stressed and they're anxious. Someone else feels like they need it because they have depression. Everyone has a reason that they consume the drug, right? Whether it's ADHD, PTSD, pain, stress management, whatever it is. Everyone, to sleep, to relax, everyone has something, okay? But what you're doing is you're taking a condition like ADHD and you're using it as an excuse to continue consuming cannabis. Now, look, at the end of the day, if it's truly benefiting your body and soul, I would tell you don't quit using cannabis. But on that same note, I would ask you, why are you on a live stream about quitting cannabis and quitting nicotine if you truly feel it's benefiting you? So there's probably a little bit more to your story that I would have to understand to advise you properly. Because if it's truly benefiting you, I wouldn't tell you to stop using cannabis. But if it's actually working against you and you're using ADHD as an excuse to continue justifying the consumption of something that might be harming you, well, then we have a problem. So I need you to think a little bit deeper about what you're saying. And again, I would just tell you avoid falling for that kind of victim mentality of, well, I have this, I have that. We all have something. Everyone has something that we're dealing with. But does that change the fact that you're trying to improve yourself through quitting substances? Probably not. I hope that helps you out, Joe. And I hopefully I wasn't too harsh on you on that one. Dallo12 says, thank you for your advice. I've been sober from cannabis and drinking for 5 months now. Congratulations, guys. I got to say, we have one of the most powerful communities here on YouTube. I think when it helps people overcome substances. Kevo Russell's age 16 says, I'm feeling dependent on it. So Kevo, you might be correct. It is possible for people to develop a physical dependence to cannabis because when you consume a lot of cannabis, especially from a young age, your endocannabinoid system is not yet fully developed. You have a system in your body called your endocannabinoid system, and this is the system that makes your body's own THC and your body's own CBD. And if you've been consuming a lot of cannabis, getting it from a plant source, a phytocannabinoid, what happens is your body starts to turn off its own production of THC and CBD and other cannabinoids. So you may in fact have some physical dependence to the substance. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't quit, though. You quit, and with a period of time, usually after about 2 weeks, your body's going to start making its own endocannabinoids again. But to the degree that your body starts making its own is going to be dependent upon the environment that you give your body to heal. So doing things like eating healthy, regulating your sleep, working out, all of those things, social interactions with people you enjoy being around, all of those things are going to promote your body making its own endocannabinoids again, which is ultimately going to reduce your physical dependence. Now, when I'm working with clients one-on-one, if we have someone who's truly physically dependent upon cannabis, in those cases, we might not stop them cold turkey. We might actually taper cannabis and have them wean off slowly so the quitting process doesn't involve too much of a disruption to their day-to-day life. Okay. So in your case, Kevo, if that's what's going on, you might want to consider tapering. And at the age of 16, there's a high chance that you're using cartridges. Maybe you're using black market cartridges. You'd be better off switching to a high quality herb or even a low dose edible. Just if you haven't used edibles before, just be aware like the chance of a mental health reaction is a little bit higher. But you might be better off switching to a higher quality form of cannabis in a lower amount. Now, if you're tapering cannabis because you're physically dependent on it, what you're going to want to do is you can taper it in one of three ways. You can reduce the strength of cannabis, THC, and you can get something that's higher CBD to THC ratio. You can decrease the frequency of consumption, or you can decrease the frequency and the strength. And we usually do this over a period of 2 to 6 weeks when we're tapering people off of it. Smoking weed, but I can't quit cigarettes, says Concrete Menace. So what I find with people, Oh, smoking weed, I quit cigarettes. You quit cigarettes through smoking weed, is what I think you're telling me. Yeah, I think a lot of people would say that about cannabis, right? People will come on and say, I quit alcohol because I was smoking weed. I quit cigarettes and vaping because I was smoking weed. Listen, you're giving cannabis too much credit, okay? The reality is, you are a human being that is capable of making rational decisions, that is capable of exercising choice. Okay. Don't give cannabis undue credit. Maybe it was a little bit of a crutch. Maybe it helped you. But understand something. You quit cigarettes because you had the right mindset. You quit cigarettes because you had the right approach. Don't think that it was anything else outside of that. Now, for some reason, my camera just went really blurry and I'm not sure why. So I'm going to try and change around my camera settings here for a minute. Let's switch over to my FaceTime HD camera and let's see if that fixes things. Okay, we'll switch over to this one. There we go. All right, but that's what I would tell you, Concrete Menace, okay? Now, Red Tonic. Yo, coach, I quit 3 years ago for 6 months and I relapsed, and it's been 3 years since. Please help. Red Tonic, here would be my immediate advice to you. There is really no, you have to get rid of the word relapse, okay? That's the first problem. If you believe in relapse, it means that to some extent you believe in the idea that you have a disease called addiction. And if you have a lifelong disease called addiction, there always is the chance of relapse, okay? So what I would tell you is, you didn't relapse, you made a conscious decision to consume cannabis again after a period of 6 months of not consuming it. Why did you make that decision? What was the perceived benefit of consuming cannabis again? And then what we have to do is, after we identify that benefit, we have to work to devalue it. Okay. So that's what I would tell you. And then this is how you're going to pull yourself out of it again. Now, look, what did you do 3 years ago when you quit? Whatever you did worked for a period of 6 months. Now, one, I would implement whatever it was that you did before to quit. That's the first thing that I would do. Secondly, I would ask yourself, did you quit because you had the right mindset? Or have you been trying to use willpower this whole time quitting, and you've just been trying to grit and bear it for a period of 6 months? And eventually that willpower, like a muscle, it got fatigued and you went back to it. This is why willpower fails people time and time again when it comes to quitting. So, Red Tonic, I probably have a few more questions for you than I do answers before I can help you. Okay. Um, the next thing I'll tell you too, though, Red Tonic, real quick, is chances are you're looking at this as, you threw it all away, you lost progress, blah, blah, blah. You probably gained something in that period of 6 months that you quit. Okay. So you can't look at it as you lost all the progress that you made, even though you've been back in the cycle for a long period of time. You had to take something away from that. We need to use that something, and we need to use it to help you quit again. Okay. All right. Yuri says, what's the best thing I can do when the urges to smoke come? I'm sober for 1 month, bro. I'm very happy, but I always feel the urges to smoke in the month. 2, will it get better? Okay. So one, you're 1 month in. Most people, I say, you really got to give it to 3 months. 90 days is really the gold standard. When you have cravings to smoke, what I want you to do is identify, what is it that you actually crave in life, right? It's not smoking more weed. You quit smoking for a reason. It's because you wanted better physical health. You wanted better relationships. You wanted better mental health. You wanted better finances. Those are the things in life that you actually crave. So the best thing you could do is focus on the actions that you need to take to satisfy the things in life that you actually crave. We need to reframe what it is you actually crave in life. And in order to do that, we have to revisit why it is you quit in the first place. Now, secondly, don't look at urges and cravings as a bad thing. Every time you have a craving, every time you have an urge to consume cannabis, that is an opportunity to get a win. That's an opportunity to say, I'm not going to consume cannabis. I'm not going to smoke a cigarette. I'm not going to have that drink of alcohol. If you get 20 urges a day, you have 20 opportunities a day to stack 20 tiny wins a day. So look at those urges and cravings not as a bad thing, but as opportunities to start stacking wins. Lastly, when it comes to cravings, I want you to ask yourself something. That are they really that big of a deal? A craving is only as big of a deal as you make it. A craving is not the end of the world. It's not some catastrophic event. It's not a loss of a limb. It's only as big of a deal as you make it. Go splash some water on your face, see a craving for what it really is, and move on from that craving. I hope that helps. I was the first video you saw since you stopped, Owl. That's awesome. 5 weeks, no weed, says Ed Zachary. Canna Club Chicago. I'm on suicide watch because of cannabis. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that, but I see this all the time. Cannabis is strongly associated with suicidal ideation. Unfortunately, I'm very familiar with organizations that have represented the lives of hundreds, maybe even thousands of family members who have lost a loved one to cannabis substance use. Time and time again, the literature shows that cannabis is not a good thing when it comes to mental health. And so many people are under the delusion that it's helping their mental health. A really simple explanation for cannabis as to why it's so bad for mental health is because it destroys REM sleep. And REM sleep, deep sleep, is where your brain goes into problem solving mode. And if you're starving your brain of its ability to solve problems, to process emotions, eventually that's going to create a mental health crisis. Now, I've also seen suicidal ideation occur from cannabis consumption because of all of the negative side effects and consequences that a person has experienced from cannabis substance use. And then, obviously they feel bad about themselves and that drives them to that mental state. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that you reached out for help. I'm glad that you're on watch and that you have eyes on you to help you during this time. In Canna Club Chicago, I can tell you I've seen it time and time again with people when it comes to mental health issues. They quit, a period of time goes by, and those mental health crises start to reverse themselves. So I hope and I pray that's the outcome for you. SG Easy. I quit weed and black market. I quit weed and black and milds at the same time. It's been 3 months and I don't feel any need to go back. Yeah, that's pretty standard to what I see. That was very similar to my own journey. Certainly the people that I've helped over the years, I usually say if we can get to that 3 month mark, that's usually where things start to really improve and people start to lose the desire. Sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it's up to a year, but 3 months is kind of the gold standard. That's why inside our one-on-one addiction exit protocol coaching programs, I have a 3 month program and I have a year-long program of coaching. And if you guys want to learn more about that, I'll put a link in the video description in the pinned comment for it. Everything you said about stopping and going through the emotional struggle really helped me stay focused. Anytime, Dal, anytime. When you have people that you can relate to, it goes such a long way. It goes such a long way. Ben Newman, if they're addicted after 6 months or 9, maybe it could be very easy to quit nicotine or smoking. Yeah, Ben, I think it varies from person to person. Some people, when they get the right mindset, I've seen 40 years of constant smoking reversed in 2 days with the right mindset. I've seen people quit easily after a lifetime of smoking. I've interacted with other people where they've only been addicted for a few months and they really, really struggle to quit. So I think it just varies person to person. And so much of that is rooted in the mindset and the mentality. Still flow, no questions. I'm one of the ones that's seen all the videos 10 times and hasn't achieved anything long term. I don't feel helpless though. I truly know a real level. It's truly a help to me. Thank you. I appreciate that, Still Flow. This is what I would say to you. There comes a point where it's time to stop watching videos. You learned everything you need to know. You have all the knowledge you need to make a change, and it's just time to implement making that change. So maybe you need accountability. Maybe you need community support. Maybe you need a kick in the butt to get that change started. But I've seen it time and time again where people will get stuck in the process of quitting and they won't actually try quitting. And it sounds like to me, Still Flow, that you're close, but that might be one of the traps that you're falling for, right? And it's funny because I say this too to clients. You can feel, and this was advice that a business mentor gave me, you can say, I'm really trying to quit cannabis. I'm really trying. But if I spoke to you, I'd say like, well, how are you trying? And you're like, I'm watching videos and I read books and I've really educated myself on it. I'd say that's great. But what have you done to quit? Like, what have you really done? And it's like there's a difference between trying and doing. There's a difference between learning and implementing. And it sounds like still flow. You have to move towards that implementation stage. Now, I'm not sure what is that's jamming you up on that, but maybe we can figure it out. Life is no fun sober, says Canna Club Chicago. I felt that way too, very much so. When I first quit substances, nothing brought me joy. But you know what? Substance use didn't bring me joy either. So, life is no fun sober, but I can't say that life is particularly fun under the influence of drugs either. I'll say this: life is no fun sober for people because in many instances, let's take my scenario as an example. That threshold for dopamine release is so screwed up, right? I needed cannabis, alcohol, nicotine, adult media content all at once to reach my threshold of dopamine. So when I quit that stuff, going for a walk, interacting with my girlfriend, getting a business win, it didn't touch my dopamine threshold. But over time, staying away from the drugs for a long enough period, eventually that threshold for dopamine release started to decrease and simple things started to become more enjoyable again. But that's a factor of time, right? That's a factor of time and healing. Okay. Also, as far as life not being fun sober, I don't know what your life consists of, but like I had to work very, very hard to create things in my life that gave me purpose and gave me entertainment and stimulated me. That didn't just happen by osmosis. It happened through a lot of hard work and a lot of trial and error. So I hope that helps. Ruben says CHS literally changed my life. I was in and out of the ER all the time, and it inspired me to become a nurse and help others. I promised myself to quit marijuana after 9 years of smoking. Congratulations. So, yeah, Ruben, it's funny. I love this story because so many times I'm interacting with people and they say, oh my gosh, I regret using drugs so much. And people ruminate on their substance use and they have so much shame and regret surrounding it. And they asked me how I deal with shame and regret surrounding some substance use. And I say to them, look, it's what you make of quitting. In quitting cannabis and other drugs, I developed confidence. I developed discipline. I developed grit. I developed tenacity. Incredible traits that some people will never develop in a lifetime, an entire lifetime. There are people who walk this earth that will never go through a challenging experience to give them those character traits. And for me, addiction, the experience of addiction and the experience of getting sober, committing to that, developed those character traits for me. And those are really positive things that have happened to me in life. They've changed my life, they've changed my family's life, and they've changed the lives of literally hundreds of thousands of other individuals, right? I have 700,000 people across all my platforms that I've hopefully impacted in some positive way. That's amazing. I don't regret my addiction. I learned a lot from it, and I've been able to pass that message on. It's really been as weird as this sounds, it's been a blessing in my life. So I hope people understand that. Charlie says, absolutely not going back to using it no matter what. That's a great level of commitment. And Charlie, I was talking to someone earlier and they were asking me about nicotine withdrawal. And they said, well, what if the withdrawal happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? And I said to them, does that change your commitment? Does that change your decision to quit? And Charlie, you have the correct mindset there. No matter what, hell or high water, I made a decision and I'm committing to that decision. That's the mindset that we like to see. SG Easy, I've dropped 170 pounds over the last 4 years, and I just joined the Air Force. Your videos helped me more than ever. Congratulations. I love it. I love it. I used to be a heavy weed smoker and I couldn't stop myself. I was chain smoking spliffs at one point and getting into financial difficulties. 4 months clean now. 4 months off of the drugs now. Congratulations, DDX3. I love to see it. And you don't got to call yourself clean. You weren't dirty in the first place, right? You were just making bad decisions, but you weren't a dirty person. All right. Mariston Stell says, I want to quit nicotine. I stopped smoking cigarettes last month and I started chewing the gum, 6 pieces a day. I relapsed yesterday, 2 packs of cigarettes, and I would usually smoke 12 a day. thank you guys so much for the donations. I'm trying to keep up with all the comments. You don't have to donate anything. You really don't, but I appreciate it. The money just goes back to buying audio equipment and doing things to help, help the program and stuff. But okay. So okay, I'm as far as this quitting nicotine comment goes, I think yeah, so there's many ways you can quit nicotine. When I use nicotine replacement therapy with people, I typically use patches, not chewing gums or pouches. I find patches to be more effective because the chances of abuse are so much lower. But I don't know that you had the right mindset going into it. I'm guessing going into quitting, you put all of your faith in the gum and the nicotine replacement therapy, and I'm going to guess you kind of didn't put the work into the mindset side of it and getting that correct. And that's maybe what led you back to this situation. Now, on the flip side, I could also say, look, in a lot of cases, I recommend quitting cold turkey because the more nicotine you're continuing to consume, the longer you're keeping those nicotine receptors in your body alive. And, that's a problem, right? So, it just kind of prolongs the detox process. So I don't know. Maybe you should be quitting cold turkey. Maybe there's a lot more mindset work that needs to be done with or without nicotine replacement therapy. So many people use NRT, nicotine replacement therapy. They put all of their faith in that product and they fail to put faith in themselves when it comes to quitting. And then they wind up just going back to the drug. Right? We can't put and I say this as a guy that sells Kick It chewing gum, an amazing supplement to help people quit nicotine and cannabis products. But like supplements and nicotine replacement therapy is supplemental to the mindset, the environment regulation, the lifestyle modification. Okay. Um, Professor Moses says, I miss cannabis. Well, I'm not sure what to tell you on that. We'd have to dig a little deeper. Why specifically do you miss cannabis, right? That would be my question. No drugs, no alcohol, no smoking. Congratulations, Adrian. Uh, Erican, I recently relapsed on Zins after quitting for 2 weeks. So in your case, what led to not the relapse? We don't use the word relapse here, not in my programs. You made a conscious choice. You made a decision, right? You are in control. You are not some mindless animal that just spontaneously combusted into substance use, okay? You made a conscious decision to use Zyn again. What was the perceived benefit? Were you going through a lot of withdrawals? I'm going to guess it was probably, I've helped a lot of people quit Zyn. I'm guessing it was probably related to like anxiety and mental health stuff that you were experiencing after you quit. Maybe what you should have done was, in your case, tried some nicotine replacement therapy or supplementation. Maybe there was a perceived benefit of returning to use. And maybe what we needed to do was dismantle that benefit of returning to use. Maybe you needed some support or accountability. What led you back to that decision to consume again? Good days come from hard work. That's absolutely true. I agree with your username. As a moderate smoker, I now only smoke on the weekend and nothing during the week. How long would it take for me to reset my endocannabinoid system from weed if I fully quit? My guess would be not very long. I don't have an exact answer for you on that, and I don't know exactly how we track that. The closest way I've come to kind of tracking that for people is I encourage them to go on Amazon and buy something called an Exploro test kit. Exploro offers an at-home THC urine test, and they offer a multi-level THC urine test kit. And I tell people at the point you're pissing clear on the THC test kits, that means that your body's fully detoxed the byproducts of THC. And I would assume it's sometime around then your body's going to start pumping out its own endocannabinoids again, which I would guess for you is going to happen pretty quickly, especially if you have a healthy lifestyle. I would think it would happen pretty quick. Okay. Charlie Beckert says the withdrawals were not that bad. I really wanted to quit. I started going outside more and feeling better. Yeah, so many times people overcomplicate the quitting process. They overcomplicate it. Sens fan 7. Trying to quit cigarettes and I still can't quit even with a sore throat. That's probably the cause from cigarettes. Yeah, that might be from cigarettes. And look, there's a lot of times people are experiencing negative health consequences of smoking cigarettes or using, cannabis or alcohol and they don't quit. I always say quitting out of a fear for health consequences typically isn't the most beneficial. It's typically doesn't work because people get really scared of health consequences. They'll get heightened anxiety, and then what do they do when they get anxious about their health? They wind up consuming more of the drug, right? So like if you're trying to quit from a place of fear, it's usually fairly ineffective. We typically have to find some other reason behind your why when it comes to quitting. Okay. And let's be honest, right? Like a sore throat, yeah, it sucks, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Like I could easily smoke through this. I mean, shoot, I used to smoke through all types of illness and all types of problems. You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't matter to me. So Sens fan 7, that doesn't surprise me. That's not a strong enough reason for you to stop. That doesn't surprise me. I smoked heavy every day since I was 16. I'm 27 now, says SG Easy. No big deal. Dude, I've had people in our programs who have smoked every day from the age of 16 to 60, and I've seen them quit. Don't fall into the mindset that I've been doing it for so long, I'm screwed. I promise you, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people who have been consuming the substance way longer than you have, who have successfully quit and changed their lives for the better. I know what it feels like to be doing that for a very long time and to wind up feeling like you're kind of hopeless and like it's been too long. But you're 27, you're young, your body's still developing. I mean, shoot, you quit now, you have such a positive chance of fully rebounding. Again, I've worked with people inside our one-on-one programs who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, who've been doing it their whole life for decades, and they fully recover. So don't stress over that. Don't let that be an excuse to not quit, okay? Because it's a common excuse that people fall for. Just Kel says, on July 7th, I stopped marijuana cold turkey after smoking since I was 9. Amazingly, no cravings so far. However, I am having issues with aggressive behavior. I take NAC, great supplement, and any other recommendations. Yeah, NAC is one of my favorite supplements. I also really like KSM 66 ashwagandha. Those are the two primary ingredients inside our Kick It Crave Less chewing gum that we manufacture. You can find that at kickitrevolution.com, KICKIT revolution.com. Now, any other recommendations? Yeah, I'd want to assess that aggressive behavior. What scenarios are you finding it that you're being aggressive in? That would be my primary question. And is it aggressiveness or is it assertiveness? I'm going to be dropping a video on Sunday that kind of creates a separation between aggression and assertion. Because if you're being more assertive, that's not a bad thing. Now, if you're being unnecessarily aggressive, well, that can be a bad thing. So, just Cal, I probably have more questions for you than I have answers because I'm not even sure that you're interpreting aggressiveness correctly. So many times I see people and and I'm not against therapy, but they'll be in therapy and the therapist will say, like, oh, you quit weed and you quit smoking, so you're more irritable and you're more aggressive. But when I talk to people and I'm like, well, what are you being aggressive about? And they're like, well, I'm really being taken advantage of at my job, or there's been this problem in my marriage and I'm starting to speak up on it. I'm like, well, that's not being aggressive. That's being assertive, and rightfully so. Maybe you're communicating it poorly, but maybe it's not something that we should be trying to dampen and hide. So hopefully I'm giving you some insight there. Outside of N-acetylcysteine, I think you need to look at lifestyle modification too, right? Deep breathing, meditation, self-hypnosis, exercise, hot water, cold water therapy, right? I mean, there's a million different lifestyle modifications we could make to work on that aggression, right? I'm not against someone being aggressive. It's just we have to learn how to harness that emotion. That's one of the beauties in quitting drugs. We get these powerful emotions, and now we have an opportunity to learn how to harness them. Okay. That's one of the beauties in this. Um, Everyone always assumes anger and aggression is a bad thing. It's not. It's actually important quality traits to have. It's just, can you harness those emotions appropriately? That's what matters. Right? Okay, AJ Tyrina, thank you for all your videos and posts that you put out there. It's helped me so much. F the haters. They're big mad. They're big mad sometimes. Yeah, don't worry. I don't stress over the haters. Honestly, it's one of the beautiful things about YouTube is if you have haters, you can just hit block, remove from the channel, and they're gone. So yeah, it's never a big problem. Quitting is for quitters. Yeah, I'll say this. I think a lot of people um, who drink alcohol, consume cannabis, consume things like that, I think they're quitting on something. And I think the something they're quitting on is their potential. I think they're quitting on their future. I think they're quitting on their hopes, their dreams, right? All these beautiful things that they want to accomplish in life. So, in many people that I work with, continued cannabis consumption is for quitters. It's for people that gave up on being something better. And I'm not saying everyone who consumes cannabis is that, right? Like, there's people who consume drugs who go on to accomplish amazing things, and drug consumption isn't a problem for them. But I don't see quitting as for quitters. And there's a difference. I know I say quit a lot, but there's a difference between quitting and just making a decision to stop using a drug because it's not benefiting your quality of life. Okay, great. Um, Anytime, I'm happy to help you with the content, El Puerto Rico. I'm very from Venezuela. So cool having guys. It's crazy. We got people in our coaching programs. I got people from literally all over the world. It's the coolest thing being on this social media platform and literally having had developed connections in literally almost every country in the world. It's mind blowing to me. Um, I'm look. Maris Stenell says I'm looking to stop nicotine completely, cold turkey. I feel like juicing helped, but it's expensive to do daily. Yeah, the least expensive thing you can do is to work on your mindset. Okay, it's free. Self development. I mean, it's free, right? So that's the best place to start. I sure juicing can help, fasting can help, any healthy lifestyle modifications can help. But yeah, those things come with a cost. Self development, self improvement in today's world and the access of information that's out there to do that is it costs you nothing but your time. But that's a very good use of your time. So maybe start there, right? Um, King William, I'm going through the same thing. I'm feeling pissed as fuck. Okay, yep, I get it. I get it. Obnoxious Bronco, maybe I got a victim mentality, but I'm upset that I did your application and I got denied. Do I need to be homeless to get your help? No, I'm not sure why you got denied. There could have been a number of reasons why. I'm super selective with who we work with and through our screening processes. I only really try and focus on working with people who I know I can help because I wouldn't want to take someone's money or time if I don't think that I can truly help them. So we craft a very specific application process. Right. So I'm sorry that that's the case, but hopefully my other content helps you. And look, if I can't help you, I promise there's someone out there that can, right? I'm one of probably thousands of people in this space. And by no means is my word, the end all be all, right? There's another incredible program I love out there, the Freedom Model. So if my program wasn't the right fit, I want you to check out the Freedom Model, the freedommodel.org. Incredible founders of that program. I've personally learned a lot from them. Wonderful people. So please check out other places too. Tom Bystander, thank you for this channel. I'm almost at 2 weeks, and the Grounded app really helped. Excellent. Love it. The journal portion, especially. Love it. Love it. Just did the math. I'm 135 days off the stuff. Fantastic. I also love that you haven't been necessarily counting day by day. I'm a big fan past maybe the first 90 days of not counting sober days anymore because really it means nothing. Like, yes, it's an accomplishment, but I care much more about what a person is accomplishing and their sobriety than the amount of days sober. I say it all the time and people don't understand what I'm saying. I'm like, look, I don't like particularly value my quote unquote sobriety. Like, I don't care that I'm sober. What I do care about is all the things that quitting drugs has allowed me to accomplish, has allowed me to build. Those are the things that I'm proud to show off. Those are the things that I'm proud of. A number of days is just a number of days. It means nothing to me. One day or 2,000 days, it's all the same. So yeah, but congratulations. Okay. CC Meow. I just grow it and I smoke it and not it's a part of me. Um that's fine. That's okay. Obnoxious Bronco, I've been clean for 5 days when I surrendered to Christ. When I surrendered to Christ and I was addicted for 10 years. Amen. Fantastic. Right. So there's so many different things that people will find when they quit substances. Some it's fitness, some it's faith based, some it's obsession and career based. There's so many different avenues to pull yourself out of substance use, right? So congratulations on that. I love it. Um, Kanamata, I quit for 5 months and I relapsed because I was having anxiety and depression. I was an everyday user for 20 years since I was 12, every day, all day for the last 15 years at least. So the first thing I'd say to you, Kanamata, is were you having that anxiety and depression while you were also consuming cannabis? Because a lot of people will quit. They'll say I have depression and anxiety, but then when I talk to them, they're like, well, yeah, I also had that when I was using it too. So that's the first question. The second question is, when you quit, when you experienced depression and anxiety, were you able to identify why you were experiencing those emotions? I often tell people depression, anxiety, and these things happen on a spectrum, right? Some anxiety and depression is crippling. It's life-threatening to some people. In some cases, it's not. In some cases, it's just a discomfort. Our emotions, even bad ones, depression, anxiety, stress, anger, irritability, frustration, are like the internal warning systems of our body. They're there for a reason. And the last thing, in my opinion, we want to do is dull and numb these emotions, because these emotions are telling us something. They're telling us that something's wrong. They're telling us that something needs to change. And if you numb and dull those emotions, you're never going to take action to create change, to overcome those emotions. Now, again, I don't know your specific situation. I don't know what type of crisis you might have been in from the depression and anxiety. So maybe returning to cannabis substance use, not relapsing, but making the conscious choice to consume again, was the best thing for you. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know your day-to-day life, but just some things hopefully for you to consider, okay? Dr. Frank, I'm 45 months clean from meth and oxy. Congratulations, Lester Benz. Kicking butt. The void I was filling with drugs, spirituality is filling it to the max. Yeah, I think a lot of people find this obnoxious Bronco when they quit. You know, um, uh, the things I've created since quitting substances, cannabis, nicotine, alcohol, couldn't touch it. The high that I get from it, the pleasure that I get from it, whether it's faith-based, business-based, hobby-based, relationship-based, drugs couldn't touch it. And that's why when people say to me like, oh, do you still crave weed? Do you still crave alcohol? No, I don't. There's other things in my life that bring me such significant joy and pleasure. I know I've tried drugs for a long time. Drugs could not touch those things. So yeah, I get it. Um, Ed Zachary says my dreams and appetite are back. Fantastic. Pam Diaz says, I'm having a hard time getting off of Kratom. I don't make a lot of content on Kratom. A lot of the mindset stuff I say is going to apply very similarly. In some cases, I have seen people need a medical detox for Kratom to help with that. Quitting is completely possible, though. But yes, that can be one of the more difficult things to come off of. I do understand that. Um, Okay. Ex-spouses. I quit weed 7 months ago, and to be honest, I don't feel a difference at all. Yeah, look, for a lot of people, right? And this is why in the coaching that I offer people, we really try and go above and beyond just quitting the substance, right? If you take your life and you just quit the drug and you say, what's going to change? Maybe nothing, right? Like for some people, nothing's going to change. I saw quitting the drug as the first step to creating change in my life. Okay. That was step one. But I had to actively go create change and make a difference in my life. The differences that I experienced didn't just magically happen because I wasn't consuming substances anymore. My lack of substance consumption made it easier for me to create change, right? I was more motivated. I had more energy. I had better physical health. And those things allowed me to do things that changed my life. But it wasn't necessarily just quitting a drug that creates change. Okay. Um, Old Goated says, hey, Dr. Frank, I had CHS about a year ago. I've been sober since, but I would like to smoke just one time tonight and no more. Could I smoke without getting CHS? Yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend that. And I don't know. There are people online who have reported they've had CHS, they smoke one time and nothing happened. There are people who have had CHS, quit for 7 years, smoked one time, and wound up back in the hospital the next day. So I don't know the answer to that for you. Okay. Here's my thing. You quit a year ago. Why are you looking to smoke one time? Is smoking just one time really going to give you the benefit that you're hoping to get from it? And what is the association in your brain behind wanting to smoke one time? Let me explain this. I was working with a high level professional client of ours recently, and they quit for a while and they said, I'm thinking about just smoking one time. And it was like, by all means, if that's what you want to do, please do it. But I did say, I have one question for you before you make that decision. Why? And the person had said to me, well, I got in this argument with my wife and I had this business deal fall through and I'm kind of stressed. And I just want to smoke once to kind of, just work through that. And I was like, okay, but understand what you're telling me. You're telling me you want to smoke one time to deal with stress. And I said to them, is stress going to be a one time occurrence in your life? And the answer is no, not for someone who's married with kids, not for someone who's a high level professional that owns multiple businesses. Stress is not going to be a one time occurrence. So I said to this person, I encouraged them, I said, be very clear on what you're saying. Are you saying you want to smoke one time? Or are you saying you want to smoke to deal with stress? Because if you're saying I want to smoke to deal with stress, what you're saying is I want to smoke every time I deal with stress. And that's not going to be a one time occurrence for you. So I think you have to be very careful with your thought process on this situation. Okay. Um, will I make a video about adult media content and how it's impacting our society? Sure. Yeah. I haven't made a video on adult media content in a while. I'll do that. Charlie Beckert says sleep is so much better after quitting nicotine. Of course it is. You're no longer spiking your adrenaline and norepinephrine right before you go to bed, right? Putting your body into a state of fight or flight is not good for sleep. Also, when you use nicotine detoxes from your body very rapidly. So does cannabis, so does alcohol. So when you consume nicotine and then you fall asleep, what happens is your body starts detoxing. And a lot of times people's sleep will be disrupted when they're addicted to nicotine because their body's waking them up to consume nicotine again. Okay. When you're sleeping, your body's supposed to be healing and restoring, not going through active nicotine withdrawal and detox. So when you quit nicotine, your body actually has a chance to heal and restore versus putting all of its efforts into detoxing nicotine or cannabis or alcohol when you're sleeping. You also get better blood sugar regulation when you quit nicotine, which can also help promote a good night's sleep, right? Yeah, I hope that helps. Oh, Tiffany, how are you? Look at this. Look at this. I conquered vaping good, but pot not so much. I'm so embarrassed. Tiffany, you don't have to be embarrassed. Tiffany, the fact of the matter is I've known you for a while. And look, you are trying. You are trying and you will eventually get this right. I am positive of that. I don't know when, but you eventually will. Okay? It's when people give up is when they're screwed. If you don't give up, you're eventually going to make it work, right? And I can say this about anything. I can say this about business. I can say this about relationships. I can say this about physical fitness. I can say this about so many things. So, Tiffany, I keep seeing you pop up from time and time again, and I have full faith that eventually you will figure this out. I'm positive of that. Just saying. After smoking over 50 years, I'm quitting. 3 months has been the best recently. Now 2 weeks. Bought a test kit to monitor my progress. As I suggested, still 100 ng positive. It's going to take some time. Just saying. It's going to take some time. It's all good. That test, that at home test is a great way to help build some self accountability. I quit cold turkey. It's not easy, but it can be done. Yes. And it's often in life doing things that is not easy are the things that are most rewarding in life, right? It's the challenges that we develop character traits from. If you talk to anyone in life and you ask them how they got to the level that they got to, they're not going to say, "Oh, I got here because my life was easy." They're going to say, "I did something hard. I took something valuable away from doing something hard, and that made me the person I am today." So, congratulations on the challenge. Congratulations on embracing the challenge. It sounds like it's going to pay off for you. Um, I find nicotine helps with boredom. Maybe it does. Maybe it makes you content with being bored. I had periods in my life where I was working jobs that I didn't want to work, and I would just consume nicotine all day long. And I'd be like, well, yeah, I'm working this job, but at least I got nicotine. At least I got nicotine. And when I quit, I became very fed up with different career paths I was on. And without nicotine, I became so frustrated. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't work like this anymore. I don't like it anymore. And that boredom, that frustration is what forced me to make a change. Boredom is not something you should run from. It's your body telling you that you are bored. And it's your body's way of telling you there's probably something else that you should be doing. Now, on the same note, not all boredom is a bad thing. Boredom is also the space and time that you need to like sort stuff out. It's a period of time that you can think and gain some mental clarity on things. So I don't know, maybe the nicotine is helping you with the boredom. Maybe you're under the perception that nicotine is helping you with the boredom and it's actually keeping you bored. Is ED common after quitting heavy long-term use? Yes, it is. It is. It can happen. Yes. Um, Cannabis, especially, it messes with hormone levels. It messes with a lot of things. Your endocannabinoid system plays a large role in like sexual function. So yes, that can happen. It typically clears up, but I've seen it happen many times. Um, Remember, we don't get addicted to the substance, we get addicted to the feeling. Yeah, and that's really all substances do, right? They change the way we feel temporarily. Okay, brain fog, fatigue, lack of motivation are bad right now. Yeah, that's what makes quitting so hard for some people, right? Um, uh, when you struggle with a substance use disorder, your dopamine's at zero, and dopamine is what is responsible for motivation and drive and the ability to make a change. Okay. So when people come to me and they're like, Dr. Frank, I'm just not motivated to quit. Quitting is so hard. I'm like, yeah, of course it is. You're literally lacking the neurochemical that you need to be motivated and to drive change in your life. Of course it's hard. So yeah. Like this is where we can't rely on motivation, but we got to rely on discipline. We got to rely on routine. We have to rely on structure. We have to rely on commitment. Yeah, you're lacking the very thing that you need right now to keep going. You got to push sometimes, right? And this is cool because then you learn how to not rely on motivation in life to get things done. Um, Okay, Chef Bacon, why does Dr. Artis defend nicotine? I actually interviewed him and he says it's not addictive and it can be healthy. He uses it daily and you're convinced he's in denial. Okay, so I know him. I interviewed him for a long time, and at some point I'll publish that interview with him. Here's my deal. Could someone be in denial? Sure. But are there health benefits to nicotine? Yes, there are. Okay. Is any drug really addictive? I don't know that I believe in honestly, I don't even know that I believe in addiction in general, to be honest with you. I think society and how we talk about addiction has created more addiction problems than drugs themselves have. Okay. Um, from a science standpoint, if you look at low dose nicotine, and you don't talk to the person about it. If I gave someone nicotine in a very low dose in a patch or a gum or something that's never used it before, and I don't tell them about addiction, the chances of them getting addicted are actually very slim. Okay. But when we tell people you're consuming a highly addictive substance, it's more addictive than heroin. When we tell people that and then we give them the drug, we're subconsciously programming them to be addicted to it. Okay. So, I agree with him. Maybe there's some denial. I don't know. It's not my place to make that call for a person, okay? But I like his content. I like his stuff. That's why I interviewed him on my channel, and I'll publish that interview sometime soon. I'm not sure when I'll publish it soon. It's going to be a highly controversial interview. But look, any substance has benefits and drawbacks. And I'm not opposed to talking about the benefits of drugs. I'm not. I think we should talk about the benefits. But yeah, there's certainly drawbacks to them too. Okay. Great question, Chef Bacon. It's a great question. It's a question I had too. And that's why I wanted to interview that gentleman. Okay. So Let's see here. I hate going to AA meetings. Yeah, a lot of people that we work with don't like AA. Look, there's so much that I don't like about 12 steps. I could go on and on and on about AA meetings and 12-step programs. You're in public. It doesn't respect your privacy. It's not anonymous at all. Right? They make you admit you're powerless over the drug. I am a man of faith. Not everyone is. It's very heavily faith driven, and that's a big turnoff for people who aren't religious. It's very manipulative. It's just, I could go on and on about it. Yeah, if you don't like AA, check out the link in the video description. We got a one-on-one program. Privacy. You don't have to admit you're powerless over the drug. AA. This is what AA does. It creates a problem of permanency. It tells you that hi, my name is Frank. I'm an addict for the rest of my life, and I'm going to be in recovery the rest of my life. What they're doing is they're creating a problem of permanency, and it also creates a codependence on these meetings and stuff like that. And that's very, very bad. Very bad. And that's why 12-step programs have what? I think it's a 5 to 12% success rate at helping people get sober, extremely low. Right? Every time I quit, I eventually just start again. I can't find a reason to stop. I have found your videos listed 7 reasons, but none of them stick. So I just keep choosing to go back. Um, I don't know. I've worked with a lot of people. Maybe you need some help figuring out the true reasons why you want to stop. Right? That's what I'm exceptionally good at doing with people. I don't know enough about you though to give you an answer right here tonight. And look, maybe there isn't a reason. Maybe the reason is it's because what is ought to be done should be done. Right? Maybe quitting drugs in your case is what ought to be done. Maybe it's because you have an opportunity to challenge yourself, and maybe you need to just learn to embrace challenges because maybe you can take something positive away from it. Maybe that's the only reason why you quit. I'm not sure. Sody Pop, success story here. Thanks to my support. I smoked every single day from the time I was up until the time I went to bed. 7 months weed free. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, it's so possible. It's unbelievable. I love to see it. And I see it time and time again. The amount of success stories we have on our YouTube, the amount of success stories I have inside our coaching programs in our communities, it's unbelievable. Our success rate is killer. Like it is killer high. It's awesome. Um, Every time I quit nicotine, I get mouth ulcers and a sore throat. Yeah, it's not uncommon, right? Your body's pumping through the toxins, not uncommon. Um, Day 17 of quitting cannabis for the first and last time. I love to hear that. Make today your last day one. One of my favorite things. Dr. Frank, how do I quit liking dudes? Well, Messer, I don't know. That's a sexual preference thing. I'm not really sure. That's not my area of expertise. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Addicted to 7-OH. Yeah, that's a common problem right now. Maybe I'll make a video about 7-OH soon. With a buddy of mine who does that. Let's see. All right, guys. I actually think I have to get ready to go to bed, but I had a lot of fun during this live. I know we had a lot of other questions in here. But I really appreciate everyone's support here tonight. Now, look, real quick, if you're looking for help quitting, we do have a pretty structured application process. We work with mostly like high-level professionals and people like that, just because that's kind of my space. But we have a link in the video description. If you value your time, you value privacy, you want to quit substances without disrupting your public image in your life, I put a link in the video description for you to help you out with that. Otherwise, I'll see you during our next live, and stay tuned to the channel this week, Sunday. I got a absolutely killer video that I'm going to drop about some of the benefits of quitting cannabis that you probably haven't heard or thought of before. Benefits that I've seen apply to literally almost everyone that I've helped quit across the board. All right, guys, until next time. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the donations. You guys are awesome. We have honestly one of the best communities here ever. Thank you.